All right, well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the Kentucky Department of Education's Commissioner Student Advisory Council meeting today. I'm Joe Ragusa with the Kentucky Department of Education's communications team. First things first, we'll start things off with a welcome, and with that welcome is Kentucky Department of Education Deputy Commissioner Thomas Woods Tucker. Thomas, take things away.
Thank you, Joe. First and foremost, good morning, grand rising to all who's a part of this call this morning, and certainly to our Student Advisory Council members. We really could not do this work. We could not be as effective without the voice of our students. And this is certainly one of the highlights of my time here at the Kentucky Department of Education. I can't believe it's been 5 years. So again, a hearty welcome, not only from me, but also from our Commissioner Robbie Fletcher, the Kentucky Board of Education, our colleagues here at the Kentucky Department of Education, as well as our colleagues across this beautiful Commonwealth. So again, thank you for joining us. We have a packed agenda today. Joe is going to guide us through the agenda, but hopefully it'll be a day that you can take in and you can enjoy. I know it's a little cloudy out, and we're glad that you're not on the road, and many of our colleagues here are not on the road, and we're able to join here virtually. So we'll go. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get kicked off. I have a few announcements that I want to share that we're engaging in here in the Kentucky Department of Education. And at the end, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, please feel so to give us some input, either in the chat box or certainly you can email me or give me a call. First up, the Kentucky Department of Education is partnering with the U.S. Army to start a statewide junior ROTC program. The Kentucky Department of Education has partnered with the U.S. Army Cadet Command to start a pilot program for a statewide Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps program, better known as JROTC. The JROTC program prepares high school students for leadership roles while making them aware of their rights, responsibilities, and privileges as American citizens. As part of a new statewide office, we've hired, or the state has hired, Colonel retired Tim McDonald, and he's been hired as the state director for Army instruction. He's a solid officer, great man, and really loves the next generation of our military people. So really excited about that. And his office will provide administrative logistics management for the JROTC program. And McDonald's primary role also includes overseeing 97 JROTC programs operating in Kentucky schools, and also serving as Kentucky's representative and advocate for JROTC. Again, we're very excited about that program. And I'll just add one note here. The JROTC program or reserves program, or even active duty military, provides students an opportunity to gain real life experience. And guess what? You get an opportunity as well to have tuition reimbursement. So they could cover your undergrad expenses as well as your postgraduate expenses. Meade County's Kristen Hibbert was named the 2024 Kentucky Special Education Teacher of the Year. Ms. Hibbert is a moderate and severe disabilities educator at Meade County High School. She was honored as the Council for Exceptional Children's 2024 Kentucky Special Education Teacher of the Year. The naming took place during the Kentucky Exceptional Children's Conference at the Galt House in Louisville, Kentucky on November 25th. Interesting to mention is that Hibbert started her career in education as a full-time substitute teacher for Jefferson County Public Schools in 2001. From 2002 to 2006, she worked at Meade County High School as a learning and behavior disorder and language arts teacher. Hibbert has held her current role in Meade County High School since 2006. And I'll also make note that that's one of the various pathways into going into the wonderful profession of education. This now State Teacher of the Year began as a substitute teacher. So we always will encourage you as well to consider education. And you'll hear from one of our colleagues a little later about our great profession. Moving on, more than 50 Kentucky schools were certified as family-friendly schools. The Pritchard Committee, whom many of you know, also sponsors the Pritchard Student Voice Team, and we're really excited about the work that they've done in really pushing family-friendly schools. So the Pritchard Committee Academic Excellence kicked off Family Engagement and Education Week at the Kentucky State Capitol back in November by honoring the 54 Kentucky schools and early care centers that earned family-friendly certification in 2024. Our very own Governor, Andy Beshear, signed a proclamation at the event declaring November 18th through the 22nd Family Engagement in Education Week in the Commonwealth. So congratulations to those 50 Kentucky schools. Moving on, this is a national recognition that we've been bragging about for a little while. The U.S. Department of Labor recognized the Kentucky Department of Education for its commitment to apprenticeship programs. The KDE's Office of Career and Technical Education received an Apprenticeship Ambassador Certificate of Recognition from the U.S. Department of Labor at a White House ceremony on October 23rd. And what's interesting about this is that your Kentucky Department of Education was the only entity from Kentucky and the only state department of education to receive this recognition. As you know, each state has a state department of education as well as 8 of the U.S. territories. So this was very much a very, I would say, wonderful recognition for the Kentucky Department of Education. Certainly something that we can point to that's pointing students not only preparing them for the world of college, but also the world of work and ultimately life success. So really excited about that. One of the things that I am also excited about, this came about in my department. Many of you know that I help supervise. I am the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Teaching and Learning, along with the great equity work we do. The Office of Teaching and Learning won a competitive grant. This grant is called the Kentucky Comprehensive Literacy Grant. And the award amounts range from $213,000 to $312,000 per year for up to 5 years based on the district size. And the Kentucky Comprehensive Literacy Grant will provide 5 years of funding to purchase high quality instructional resources, what we call HQIRs for literacy and curriculum based professional learning and coaching, which is extremely important to support the effective implementation of HQIRs to improve oral language, increase readiness, and overall literacy rate. So again, happy about that. And also, as I begin to wrap up, I want to make mention of an activity, probably the most important activity that our students have been involved in here on this council, is addressing mental health issues. Our very own Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman is beginning to bring together a committee again, and I'm sure that she will reach out to you all once again to get your input on mental health, particularly mental health at the middle school level. So again, please be prepared to give us your input on that. And the last thing I'll mention to you during my time here during this welcome is that the Kentucky Department of Education is accepting nominations for the 2026 Kentucky Teacher of the Year. Nominations are now being accepted for this prestigious award, and any full-time public school teacher in the state with at least 3 years of experience is eligible. Nominations may be submitted via the Kentucky Teach of the Year nomination form. And yes, students, we would love for you to nominate your highly effective and favorite teacher as well. Joe, that's going to wrap up the announcements for me. Again, students, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me or drop them in the chat box. Joe, do you see anything in the chat box now?
Lisa had mentioned that one of the items that you were talking about was awesome, and I forgot which one that timed out with, honestly. But other than that, no, we're good.
Okay, sounds good. We'll turn the agenda back over to you, Joe. Thank you.
All right. Well, Next up on the agenda, we have the roll call, and we'll also approve the summary from the last meeting. If everybody that is on the call that is here can have their mics on while I am calling out names, and just signify that you're here when I call your name out. So if we're ready to go, we'll start out. So Lisa Abrampop.
Present.
All right. Mary Beth Bolin.
Present.
Graham Borden.
Here.
Annie Cockerham O'Donnell. Isabella Edgehill.
Present.
Annie's present.
Ananji. I'm sorry?
Annie is present.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Ananji Fox.
Present.
Gotcha. Mana Scarla.
Present.
Preston Graham.
Present.
Samara Higgins.
Present.
Onetz Irakiza.
Present.
Peter Jefferson.
Present.
Alan Kalimbai. Sophia Langford.
Present.
Gabriella McAdams.
Present.
Tanvi Rakesh. I'm sorry, was that?
We're gonna go ahead and put in our equation.
I'm sorry, is that on Net's mic? That was okay, gotcha. Let me which one was I on? Tanvi Rakesh. I don't know if I heard you. All right. Daniel Ratley.
Present.
Luisa Sanchez Almenarez.
Present.
Abigail Sears.
Present.
Sophia Staples. Koata.
Present.
Austin Eric Vitato. Aliete Yanis Medina. And India Young. Are there any names here that I didn't call? All right. Well, Peter, if you want to take over here as far as the approving the summary from the last meeting, I believe you need a motion and then a second on that.
That's correct. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes you received in your email from the last meeting? We'll need one motion and one second.
Minutes.
Okay, so is that Preston Graham with the motion, and then the second was, we have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. And is that Gabriella, is that correct? Okay, thank you. All right, with the minutes being approved, I'll pass the agenda back.
All right, and next up is our mindful minute. So I'll hand things over to Michelle Searcy, Program Coordinator for Comprehensive School Counseling in the KDE Office of Teaching and Learning.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing today? Now, y'all know I like to have conversations. So throughout our mindful minute today, please come off mute. Feel free to use the chat. We want this to be conversational. It's not very fun just sitting and getting all the time. So I want you to be involved in today's presentation. Thank you, Seth. I am glad that you were good. Even if you're not good, that's okay too. All right, if we can go on advance to the next slide. All right, so welcome back, you guys. This is a busy time of year. It's oftentimes hard to get anything kind of crammed in, but we want to make sure that our time with you is spent well and that you get the most out of today's entire council meeting and that we get a lot out of you too. So let's recap our last mindful minute real quick that we did the last time we met. So if you have your journal, you can go on and get those out. In our mindful minute last time, we talked about 3 different types of stress. The first one was positive stress, and that is just the normal stress that we feel in everyday life. The stress that we have like before we do public speaking or before we take a test, maybe before we try out for a team, all of that is normal stress. Does anybody remember one of the other 2 types of stress we talked about?
Would toxic stress be one?
Toxic stress is one, Peter. Thank you. So toxic stress is that stress that we have that's prolonged. It goes on and on. It doesn't really have an end, and we don't have the support systems or structures in place to help us with that. So that may be community violence or abuse that someone is experiencing long term. It could also be a chronic injury. So especially with some of our athletes, they may have a chronic injury that they have experienced, and it's maybe changing their outlook on life and what they want to do post high school. So that can be a toxic stress if we don't have the right support structures in place. Does anybody remember the last one that we talked about? That's okay, y'all. You can put this down in your notebook this time. So the other stress that we talked about was tolerable stress. So these are highly stressful situations, but we have support structures in place. We have those protective factors in place that help see us through those stressful moments. So this is like grief. If we experience the loss of someone, and when we say grief, it doesn't necessarily have to be that someone has died. It could also be grieving a relationship that has ended, a friendship that has ended, maybe a parent's marriage that has ended. Like all of those are very common things to grieve. It could also be a disaster that maybe you've been a part of. We've seen a lot of disaster happening in our country, especially weather related. And so it's very stressful, but it's tolerable if you have support structures in place. And then lastly, we talked about our WHOOP goals, and we did an update about where you guys were for your goals for the year. But today I don't have as much time with you, so we're not going to go back over those WHOOP goals this time. Can we go on and advance the slide? Hanette, I'm glad to see you're doing great as well. So let's do a quick welcome and inclusion activity. And I want you to take a minute and look at our 4-legged friends here. We've got 8 of them. And I've tried to put the numbers on there so you could easily see them. But could you drop in the chat box which 4-legged friend represents how you are feeling right now? Like for me, I think it would have to be 4, because I would really like to just wrap up in a blanket and kind of, I like to hibernate in the winter. I don't like to get out. I don't like the cold. So I love to stay wrapped up. I can still be just as effective, but I like to stay wrapped up. All right, lots of 7s. Let's see what 7 is. Y'all are tired. I get that. Someone agrees with me on the 4. Thank you for not letting me be alone. Okay, I have some 8s. So you guys are feeling yourself today. You're ready to tackle the world. Definitely 7s is taking over our space today. And I think that that's normal, especially given how gloomy it is outside. And I don't know where you live, but here in Frankfort, it is a lot of clouds, a lot of haze. It's just bleh. And so that makes us sometimes feel a little sleepy too. All right, so if you want to share, you can drop it in the chat or you can unmute your microphone. Why did you pick that particular dog as what you're feeling today, what you're vibing with?
I picked 5 just because like it's finals week, so all the teachers are cramming in a lot of tests just before, the finals. And so, you know what? Only 2 weeks left. Let's get it. Let's just study. So I'm feeling very studious.
Ooh, Louisa, I love it. So you know you got lots of things coming up, but you say bring it on. Like you can do 2 weeks, you can do 2 weeks of hard stuff, and then you get a break. And being able to work through hard stuff, knowing that we have a break coming up, makes that a little bit easier. Anybody else want to share? One more person. Okay, y'all are definitely looking at the chat. You're feeling what Louisa said with the finals week. It's in full swing and y'all are doing it. And Isabella, the gray weather here definitely makes me want to sleep. That's why I chose 7. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Getting out of bed this morning was a little rough. I did not like it, especially when that alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m. in the morning. All right, if you can go on advance to the next slide, Daniel, people are going to be jealous that you don't have finals before the break. So yeah, you're going to make some folks feel a little jealous of you right now. So last week, or last time we met, not last week, I would love to meet with y'all every week, but last time we met, we talked about stress, and I asked all of you as students advisories, like, give me some feedback on stress. What are some things that you really get stressed out about as a student in your school or just as an individual? And these are the things that you kind of honed in on that we saw from a lot of different people. You said that managing life outside of school impacts school. So like there are things that are going on in your life that you definitely bring into the school setting that causes you stress. Trying to manage the due dates of tests and assignments and all of the important things you have to do in school is challenging. It gets really hard to do that, and that causes you stress. It doesn't seem like your teachers collaborate on due dates. We heard this a lot. Like you may have 6 or 7 different teachers and all of your stuff is due around the same time. So there doesn't seem to be any coordination of when teachers are going to ask for things to be due, which causes you all a lot of stress and anxiety when you're trying to get everything done on a particular date. You have social stress. You do have social lives, and those can cause stress that you bring into the school. And then thinking about life after high school, money stresses you out when you think about how you're going to pay for college, and just the pressure to be perfect or to just fit in. And I'm going to talk about that one at the next time that we meet. If you can go on and click that button for me, Joe. Just wanted to say, I see you all. Like, I hear what you're saying. I see you. I can feel that stress from you, like everything that you're carrying, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. And so thinking about how can we take that information back from you all and share it with educators to let them know, like, if you come in and you're stressed out, it may not have anything to do with school or with that particular teacher. It could have something to do with something totally different, but there are a few things that they could do that could really help you manage that stress, especially around that coordination and collaboration on when things are due. Seth, I have to just chuckle a little bit because you dropped in the chat that you chose 7 because you spent more time in meetings this week than sleeping. Those weeks are the worst. That's hard. It's hard to be sitting in meetings more than you're sleeping. That's why I like to get you guys active in the Mindful Minute. All right, let's go on and click, and we are going to talk about the stress cycle. So this, I don't know if you all can see that. Hopefully you can. It's a little small in some of it, but I'll kind of go over it with you. So our body has a biological stress cycle. It's a biological process. And just like every other biological process in our body, it has a definitive beginning, middle, and end. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that in stress. We can just get into a cycle where it feels like we're constantly stressed. So we're going to talk about how you can close that stress loop and what's happening at each one of these different levels. If you want to get your notebook out and you want to write some of this down, you're more than welcome to. I will be asking you about it the next time we meet, just as an overview to see if anybody remembers, not as a test or a quiz. But it's important because this is fairly new, talking about the stress cycle and how to close that loop. And we've got 2 scientists that are identical twins that have been working on this. And so they said that the first thing that happens is some stress appears in your life. And we just talked about all of those stressors that you guys listed the last time. So you have a stress that happens in your life. That sends a message to your amygdala. It's this little bitty almond shaped part of your brain. And that is a very important because that amygdala sends a signal out to your hypothalamus. And that serves as the command center for your entire body. And that hypothalamus tells your body, we're in stress, we're in stress. And it lets your body know you need to produce adrenaline so that your body can either fight, flight, or freeze. And we talked about that a little bit the last time. So now that's coming into that second part, that fight, flight, or freeze. You come up to a stressor, your body is pumping with adrenaline, and you're trying to figure out what you need to do. If you have some of those good protective factors and some of those skills in place, you know how to handle those stresses, and you know the things that you need to do to get through those stressful moments. And so the stress handled, it disappears, but your body's not done. Your body still holds on to that. And so you have to have some type of deactivation or a stress response, a stress deactivation, or your body, even though your mind has moved on, your body has not. Your body keeps all of that stress built up until you find some way to release it. It does not know how to release it on its own. So some of those things you could do on that number 4 to deactivate your stress are things like moving, any physical movement. If you're a runner, hats off to you. I can't do it. My son is a runner, and when he's stressed, that's what he does. He goes running. It helps him process information, and he thinks it's just to clear his mind. But what he's actually doing is deactivating that stress in his body. Maybe you go to the gym, or you like to do yoga at your house, whatever the case may be. You're doing some type of movement activity that closes that stress cycle, and you're able to move through it. Journaling is another one. And that's why you all have journals that you can use for lots of different things. But journaling and writing down, okay, this is what stressed me out. This is how I handled it. And this is how I'm currently feeling now. And the big piece of it is once you write it down and you've moved from it, you have to actually let it go. You have to move from it. I'm one of these people that I process and I spin all the time on what stresses me out. My mind is constantly twirling and spinning, and I think about things all the time. And so for me to be able to write it down and say, okay, I don't have control over this anymore. This is how I responded, and now I'm going to move on. It sounds very minor, but it's actually a good way to close your stress loop. This one's going to sound a little odd, but in their book, Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, which I have heard great things about. I've not read the whole thing, but I am getting through it. I'm reading it now. They said that if you hug someone that you trust, and it's like a 20 seconds is a big time frame, because they said that 20 seconds is what deactivates the stress in your body and brings that adrenaline down. So someone that you care about, someone that you trust, that can deactivate your stress. Then you can move on to step 5, which is that rest and recovery. Sleep habits are one of the most important things that you can develop right now in your life. If you can develop healthy sleep habits now, it is going to put you on a whole different playing field for the rest of your life, so that you know, okay, I need to shut off the TV, put up my electronics so that I can get good quality sleep, at least 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep uninterrupted. So that means, y'all, if you have notifications turned on your phone, set a night mode so that it's not pinging all night long and your sleep's not getting interrupted. And then your stress cycle is complete. So let's go on to the next page. So this is the last thing we're going to do. It's called progressive muscle relaxation. And this is one of my favorite things to do outside of deep breathing, because I carry a lot of stress in my body all the time. Let's see if you guys do. Where do you carry stress in your body? You can unmute or drop it in the chat. I'll start you off. So my biggest one is my shoulders. I do this. I scrunch up my shoulders all the time. I even do it in my sleep. When I wake up in the middle of the night, I have to drop my shoulders because I cannot keep my shoulders from going up. Karen, you said the same thing in your neck. Peter, 9 and 10. Yes, in your neck. And he's saying 10. 10 is your jaw. Do you guys ever find yourself clenching your teeth? Like clenching super hard and you don't even know you're doing it until then all of a sudden your jaws hurt. Ooh, interesting, hands. So yeah, people will ball their hands up or I hold my thumbs. I know that's odd, but when I'm super stressed, I hold my thumbs and squeeze super tight. And so we hold stress in a lot of part of our bodies. So I'm going to show you, we're going to go through this progressive muscle relaxation so you can see what it feels like to tense up a few of these body parts and then how to release them and the difference that it feels in your body. So I'm going to do the ones that you guys have identified that you do the most in the chat. So normally this is done in about 15 to 20 minutes. I don't have that time today, so we're just going to do a few of them. So I want you to get comfortable in whatever space you're in your chair. Try to put your feet flat on the ground. Relax your arms. Relax your shoulders. Get into a comfortable position. If you're multitasking, put everything else away for just a moment. So first, we're just going to start with taking a deep breath in. And then release it slowly. Okay, let's do that again. Deep breath in. That's in through your nose. And out through your mouth slowly. Okay, let's start with our neck and our shoulders because a lot of people had that area. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to pull your shoulders up real high and scrunch your neck back like you would if you're stressed. Yeah, and if you don't want to do this on camera, feel free to turn your camera off. We're going to hold that for 6 seconds. Now I want you to very, very slowly release it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's helping your body see the difference between a stressed neck where you're holding all that tension in your neck and your shoulders and one that's completely relaxed. And try to make sure that your shoulders are very limp, very relaxed all the way down. All right, let's do our mouth. Now, I'm not going to do it because I can't do it and talk at the same time. But what you're going to do is you're going to clench your jaws as tight as you can, and we're going to hold it for 5 to 6 seconds. So go on and clench. Now we're going to release very slowly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we have some folks that said their hands are an area where they stress. So I want you to take your hands and I want you to squeeze them as hard as you can, almost like you have lemons in both of your hands. Squeeze them super, super tight, and we're going to hold them like that for 5 to 6 seconds. And we're going to release it slowly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is our stomachs. So in your stomach, I want you to contract your stomach really hard, really tight, almost like you're holding in a squat. Not a squat. Oh my gosh, a crunch. That's what I'm going to say. Like you're holding in a crunch. So go on and tighten up your stomach as tight as you can. You can put your hands on your belly if that helps. We're going to hold it for 5 to 6 seconds. Now we're going to release it very slowly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I want you to sit with your hands on your legs. If you want to close your eyes and you're comfortable with doing that, you can. I want you to take note of every part of your body and any tension that you have to fully release it, just so you're like a limp noodle sitting in that chair. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Now slowly release it out your mouth. One more deep breath in through your nose. And out through your mouth. All right, now some of the benefits of doing this, like you guys can do this anywhere. You can do it right before you take a test if you're stressed about that, before you have to get up and speak. You don't have to close your eyes. No one has to know you're doing it. But the benefits of progressive muscle relaxation have been researched thoroughly. It helps to reduce stress. It improves your sleep. So if you're having a hard time going to sleep, try doing this, and you can do it with every muscle in your body. It also helps your emotional regulation, enhances your concentration, which is why it's also good to do right before you take an exam. And it's easy to learn. Like it's not a hard technique to learn. Anyone can do it no matter where you are. All right, you guys, if you want to go on and advance to the next slide, that is all that I have for today. Thank you for participating in the Mindful Minute. If you want to turn your cameras back on, you can. You don't have to, but I look forward to seeing you at our next meeting where we'll go in a little deeper about some of the stress that we have. Talk to you soon, and I hope you guys have a lovely holiday.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Up next is our Kentucky United We Learn updates, council update, and that is Karen Dodd, our Chief Performance Officer here at KDE.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Michelle. I was doing that along with all of you, and I can attest that the progressive muscle relaxation really does work. I have a side gig, and that is as a Pilates teacher. And so we do a lot of those same principles. And it really, really does work. So I really appreciate hearing that and just the reminder. I do a lot of that stuff at night, too, if I'm ever having trouble sleeping. I do the progressive muscle relaxation and deep breathing, and it makes a huge difference. Yeah. All right. I'm going to be pretty brief today. However, this is another interactive one, so I would love for you all to come off mic when I get to the discussion portion. I just have 3 quick slides to show you to put things into context, and then a question, and then an ask of you. So let's go to the next slide. And first, you're going to see our journey to the moon. So I know that we have Daniel Ratley on here. He's part of the Kentucky United We Learn Council. I'm not sure if we have any other students on here who are part of our council. But what we've been focused on is accountability. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going into what accountability is all about, but I think it's important that you all are aware that one of the things that we're really focused on here at the department and the work of the United We Learn Council is local accountability. This is kind of the big change that's coming in Kentucky. So this roadmap that you see in front of you is kind of the path that we've been taking to get this new accountability system in place. So we've been working for about almost 2.5 years now on just thinking about what's important to Kentuckians. That was kind of how this whole thing got started. We did surveys, we did a listening tour, really trying to understand what Kentuckians feel is missing in education in Kentucky and what's important to them. And then this council was formed, and after looking at all the data from everything that we had already done, they came up with this moonshot, and that is to build a prosperous Kentucky. We will launch an accountability system that is meaningful and useful to all our learners. So I have a star here, winter of 2024, that says that the council and KDE will recommend a model to the Board of Education. So we have already been, we've put forth 4 different prototypes for both the United We Learn Council to look at, as well as other stakeholders. And now we have what we're calling a framework. So we've gone from prototypes to a framework. And we're getting feedback on that. Now, I'm not going to go through the framework with you today. If you go to the next slide, I will share with you kind of what we did in our last council meeting or convening. This was in October. So we did look at the latest prototype, and at that time it was prototype 4. It contains assessment information, state accountability, federal accountability, reporting. We also heard from some districts who have been very involved in moving toward local accountability. So you can see there, Shelby, Greenup, and Fleming were the 3 that came to our convening and shared what they've been working on. We've also done some focus group work with 36 different districts. And then we broke into groups and just talked about what the new model, what those changes might look like at the district level. And so since then, KDE and our partners have been working on a framework, which is now available. We have a version 1 that was, you can go to the next slide, that was shared, that version 1 was shared with the Kentucky Board of Education. We also had another meeting with the council members since our October meeting to look at yet another version, which is now what we're calling a framework. And so we're still in the process of getting feedback on all of this. Let's go to the next slide, because what I really want to get to is, yes, we do have town halls. Sorry about that. I forgot about this slide. We do have town halls that are coming up in January, and that's to get even more feedback. We will have a total of 9 town halls. They will be in each region across Kentucky, and we're going to have one that is virtual for our Spanish speaking population. So next slide. All right, so here is the question, and you're welcome to put it in chat, but I would really love to hear your voices and talk to you about this if you are so inclined. I'm wondering what a vibrant learning experience looks like to you. So let's just start there. This is kind of a 2-part question, but when you hear that phrase, vibrant learning experience, what comes to mind for you? Yes. Samara?
I would say honestly, like any learning experience that essentially ties back to what is happening like locally. Like I know in my community, we have a lot of small businesses opening and just a lot of things happening because of a lot of economic growth. But honestly, like any experience that would relate back to what is actually happening in our community, and given that it would be relating back to what's currently happening locally, kind of letting students display that they know what's happening and like letting students openly acknowledge that in an educational environment and seeing how students can give back to their communities too.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for that. Seth.
When I think of a vibrant learning experience, I think along the same vein of something that ties into the real world. But I think what really is lacking sometimes in lessons is the opportunity to go out and work with real people and actually make a physical difference in the community through your learning. I think it's important to learn the foundations and the core concepts, but it's also important to know why you're learning it and get to actually physically do something with it.
Awesome. I love that. Yes, thank you. Let's see, where are I'm gonna say these names wrong, and I apologize. Is it Koa?
Can you hear me? It's Qua.
Kwa, thank you.
Yes. Kind of just seconding anything that was previously said. But I kind of wanted to add on with the simple thought, like when we like go to school and like kind of have education in general, I feel like a lot of it has come down to like memorization rather than application. And in a lot of cases that doesn't correlate to, really using those skills in the real world. And that's just like a temporary and like short-term thing that we only just memorize for that moment and never use it again. So kind of like talking about community service, I think that's an amazing application. But I think a vibrant form of learning or a vibrant learning experience should be, hands-on education, whether that's a project in a school or like mentioned earlier, community service.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Others? Let's see, I see there's some stuff in the chat. Let me go over here. So I know this is probably unrealistic, but it would be super beneficial to go back to having assignments on paper and pencil rather than technology-based education. I feel like students are relying so much on AI and Google searches rather than using their thinking for themselves. Also encouraging co-ops in high schools across Kentucky. Okay. And you got a lot of thumbs up and hearts on that one. To be vibrant learning looks like getting out into the community beyond simply school to interact with professionals in the real world, to learn from their expertise. By interacting with professionals, students can gain mentorship and grow their networks, allowing them to be successful in a broader context. Absolutely, yeah. And I agree with Seth that the why behind what we are learning is really important. Agree. Let me jump over to Abby. Abby has her hand up.
I kind of agree with what was said about like the technology stuff. I feel like especially at my school, we have a few courses like entirely supplemented by like online courses. Like our biology and science classes are all like via Zoom with somebody who's not at our school. So I think there's like definitely a lack of like purpose in schools and learning. Like a lot of times it's like you kind of go and you're not just having those like hands-on experiences in the classroom that are conducive to creating results. Or like I agree that a good solution would be having like accessible opportunities and communication about like opportunities outside of school and stuff like that, which I feel I don't personally have a lot of. Thank you.
No, thank you. I'm going to go back over to the chat. Students want to learn as much as I do and are excited to engage with school spaces to build community. Okay. Did I miss anybody? Let me go to the second part of that question. Do I have time to go to the second part of that, Joe? I don't know what time this ends.
You're actually good on time. We've got you slated until about 10 a.m., so you've got a little bit of time.
Okay, so if you can go back to the previous slide, the second part of that question is how would your parent or family or community know that you're experiencing this kind of learning? So I'm hearing what you all think vibrant learning is. How would someone else know that that's happening? Yes, Isabella.
This isn't really an answer because I think a lot of what we've talked about is very non-traditional. And I think the way my parents know that I'm quote unquote learning is by looking at my grades. So I think it would take a lot of education for families on the school's part to say that there are other ways that your student is learning. And here are some of those ways you might see that, and inviting families into the schools to see what these vibrant learning experiences are. Because I think for a lot of families like mine, who are parents, grew up in a different time and they're used to just the A, B, C, and D of it all, that's how they equate learning. So I think it would take some education and opportunities for parents to see and understand these vibrant learning experiences.
Thank you. Let's see, Peter?
Yes, I would say I agree with what Isabel said. The idea that we are like being graded and it's all our parents can see is important, but I think that I agree that we should be able to expand beyond that. One of the things that some of the students do is that we'll have these projects that include our parents. So if there's a small way that we can include parents in the learning, or even a superficial role, doesn't have to be important. The parents can feel like they're engaged with it, and so we'll have an incentive on their own to look in and see beyond the grades. Trying to create an incentive to look in beyond the grades, engaging with the project might be a good way to do that.
Great, I love that. Samara.
I would say too, like honestly going along with everyone else, but also too, like with this whole project-based learning initiative that's like definitely overtaken a lot of classrooms. I think a lot of time parents just see the grade and the result of those projects that their students are doing, but like allowing students' parents to actually see those projects and like let those actually come to life. Because I know like in my circumstances and a lot of others, it's just like the project they're doing is very circumstantial and like hypothetical. But I think if we like actually added on to that rubric and like allow students to actually put that into practice, kind of like what Seth was saying, and like kind of just making that all come to life, that's one really good way for not even just parents, but the community to see that their students are actually like learning and engaging.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that was going to be, I was going to try to push on that a little bit more. What about community? So I'm hearing a lot about parents, which is super important. But we also know that like business leaders in your community are looking for something different as students start to graduate. How would the community know? And I think some of you really hit on it when you talked about what vibrant learning looks like, and that is co-ops or things like that. You're actually becoming part of the community while you're still learning in school. Is there anything else that you all could think of? I see in the chat, we've got social media and school open houses. Academic competitions are helpful. I like that. Actually, my kids were both very involved in that kind of stuff. In my school district, we're talking a lot about defensive learning. Yes, defensive learning, in which students have to organize a project or presentation to share with their teachers and guardians. These would be shared in person for people to come and talk in person. Yes, yes, yes. Love it. Yes, I've seen a lot of that as well. We get invited to go see a lot of those defenses of learning, and I go every opportunity I can. We should be able to connect with the community through events and volunteering. Physical projects, teacher newsletters, large-scale assignments are all very visible ways to see what we're learning. Love it. Literally seeing it. Exhibitions, but also seeing students around the community applying their skills, not just academics per se, but artistic, for instance. Yes. One specific thing is to choose our goals for the year. As students, we should be able to pick something to learn by the end of the year. Absolutely, I love that. All right. Well, you all have been very helpful. So now that brings me to my ask. So on the next slide, I have a link. And so what I'm asking is, as an advisory group, we are looking to you to help us get more feedback. So I don't know if you have access to this document. If you do, you can just click on that link. But if not, I'll ask Joe as maybe a follow-up to send that link out so that you all have it. And I would really, really love it if you could each meet with just one other student or maybe a family member or somebody in the community and ask them this question that I asked you, because we are really looking for more feedback. And one of the things that we hear a lot at the Cool Council is that we need more student voice. We want to hear more from you. What is important to you? Because this new accountability model, if you look back at our moonshot, it is to build a system that is meaningful and useful to all our learners. And that's all of you. we want this to mean something to you. So if grades aren't cutting it, if grades aren't what matter in the end, if it's these experiences, we need to hear that from you as much as possible. So thank you all so much for your time. We will get that link to you, and if you could share that and get some more feedback from your peers, I would be extremely grateful. Thank you all so much.
And Karen, while
Yes.
you're giving a wonderful presentation, and I'm really was thrilled to see so much student interaction,
Same.
I typed in as quickly or as badly as I could the upcoming 2024 town hall dates.
I will
which the
share that with
commissioner-
Joe. I do have a
Okay.
document with all the dates on it. So Joe, if you could get that out to everyone, I will send that to you. And we would love for all of for anybody, students,
Right.
parents, community, if you all could copy it, send it out to your school, to your classmates, as much as you can share it, we would greatly appreciate
Yeah.
that as well.
Absolutely. Until now, the dates are in the chat box. I did copy those in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will forward all those to everybody on the council sometime after this meeting if everybody needs it. So thanks, guys. Up next on the agenda is the discussion on educator recruitment with the Office of Teaching and Learning. We have Vita Stewart, Division Director, and Ellie Gilbert, Division Assistant Director.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie Gilbert. I'm going to kick us off, and then I will pass it over to Dr. Stewart. You can go ahead and advance the slide. And you can advance it again. So really what I'm going to start with is talking to you about an initiative that we've had here at KDE for about 5 years called Go Teach KY. And the mission of Go Teach KY is to ensure that students all across the Commonwealth have equitable access to effective educators. And we like to think about it as a big cycle. We like to think about recruiting the teachers, preparing the teachers, bringing them into the profession, keeping them in the profession, and then for them to grow new teachers and encourage the next generation, and really like keeping them engaged through all of those stages. And as you probably know, recruiting and retaining teachers is a challenge everywhere right now, not just in Kentucky, but across the nation. So we face a lot of different challenges, and we are looking at innovative ways that we can change that. If you'll go to the next slide. Just the history here were our 3 main goals when we started this in 2019. We wanted to increase participation in Educators Rising career and technical student organizations, and we've done that. I'll give you a couple of stats in just a minute. Participate in the teaching and learning career and technical education pathway, and also use the existing alternative pathways to teacher certification that the law gives us, that long KRS statute. So there are now we have 9 different pathways to alternative certification, in addition to just going to college and getting a teaching degree. So those were our 3 areas that we thought would really move the needle toward recruitment and retention. So the next slide, please. And this is how we do it. This is our little, we like to call this our gummy worm. You can kind of see why. So these are our 5 big buckets of work that we like to focus on. We encourage early entry. We are looking at even how do we get elementary and middle school students interested in becoming teachers. We have pathways for high school students, but like what can we do with middle and elementary school students? Of course, you know, kindergarten and first grade kids, everybody loves the idea of being a teacher, but that kind of fades as they grow up a little bit. How can we elevate the teaching profession? There's a lot of negativity about teaching, you know, teachers and the way that teaching is viewed in the public eye. So we really want to elevate the teaching profession and remind people what a crucial career choice that is. We want to engage in actionable supports. So what is it that people need to do to get to become teachers? How can we provide more information? How can we make it a little bit easier and break down barriers for them? We employ strategies to certification. So that's helping those folks figure out what they need to do to become a fully certified teacher in the state. And then we want to entice them to stay in the profession. So it's not just enough to get them in there. We want to keep them in there. We know that the longer teachers stay in the classroom, the more experience they have, the better teacher they become. So that's a goal of ours as well. So if you'll go to the next slide. So this is kind of how we've approached it so far. And this is a low estimate because the database doesn't always keep up with, doesn't always catch up in real time. But we have at least 45 schools in the state that are offering the teaching and learning career pathway. We have at least 931 middle and high school students who are participating in Educators Rising. I would expect that those numbers are considerably higher once everything catches up to current time. We started several years ago with just 100 or 200 kids participating in Educators Rising, and last year we had 1,000 at our conference, and this year we're looking at 1,200 to 1,500 at our annual conference that we have in March. So those are definitely growing programs, and they are very satisfying to see them grow because students really are benefiting from them. And we also have assisted and promoted grow your own programs around the state. We did a few years ago have some grant money that we were able to give out and help schools fund those initiatives. That money has kind of been spent now. So we're still looking at creative ways that we can do this. But that's really how we have focused on helping schools and districts increase their pool of potential teachers. Next slide. So I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Stewart because she's got some information that you might not know about teaching, and we just want to share it with you and see how kind of your perception of the teaching profession might change.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ellie. And so one of our goals is to always provide positive energy and to get the facts out. And there's actually an organization called Get the Facts Out. And we're trying to get the positive facts out about teaching. So did you know? So could you click? Teachers in the U.S. rate their lives better than all other occupation groups, trailing only behind physicians. So even though there's all these challenges out there, teachers have a high ranking about just the overall feel of their lives. So it's such a rewarding career. It's such a service-oriented career. And so they feel really great about what they do and what they're doing for students. Next one. So they have work-life balance, and balance is kind of a word, but they have opportunities, to have their for instance, their own child to go to school with them, or to have the same schedule as a family member, as a child, and so that offers them the opportunity to have that work-life balance. Next one. So again, that goes along with a healthy schedule. If we adhere to it, there is a healthy schedule. They work hard, but they have time to refresh, over, small breaks in the schedule, the winter break, the spring break, summer break. So they do have a very flexible schedule that allows them to work hard, but also to have some time to refresh. Next one. So, and that again, that talks about just the opportunities to have those intermittent breaks where they can, decompress and come back and be fully engaged in their work. And so, though. Click again. I think that's all of it. But yes, so that is earlier retirement. I know you're not thinking about that right now. I'm more in that space, but just think that they have earlier retirement times. I have colleagues who retired at 55 and 59, and that I know that may, I'm 55 now, so I know that may seem old to you, but it's really just starting your life. So you still have opportunity to have a full career and then be able to retire and do something different and engage in more of your side gigs and other interests that you have. So, all right, I think next slide. Oh, student and colleague relationships. That is huge. Teachers report that the relationships they build with students and the relationships they have with other colleagues is engaging. They're a tight knit group, and so that goes back to their well being. And then financial stability. So they have financial stability with the teaching career, because we always need teachers. So those are a few of just the positive facts that we want to get out there to just kind of coincide with the other noises that we might be hearing around the teaching profession. All right, next slide. So we just wanted to give you a quick snapshot, and this is a teacher's life in Central Kentucky to see exactly what that looks like. So you'll click. So this is in Central Kentucky. So we took just a snapshot of one district. And so this is Fayette County and Lexington to show you what a teacher's life could look like. Next. So starting salary for a teacher with a bachelor's degree in this county is $50,000. A teacher with 15 years of experience and a master's degree makes at least $71,825. The average salary for all Fayette Countyans is $57,000. The emotional well-being ratings in this district have increased 7 points since 2022. So that just means that they are growing and being well-rounded and feeling good about their school and their selves and their community. Next one. All right. So that just gives you a snapshot that you can make a decent living as a teacher and be able, get the facts out, say, be able to purchase a home and do all the things that that we as American citizens want to do. So insight on the teaching profession. This is where we're looking for support from you. We're about ready to launch a new campaign. And so we really want to get some feedback from you, and we want this to be interactive. You've already, earlier, I heard such great insight and thoughtfulness. So I'm looking forward to this. If you'll click. So, and let's go ahead and click all of them, because if they want to answer any one at any given time. So these are the questions that we have, and feel free to engage in any one of the topics. So the first one is, what do you think makes someone a great teacher? Secondly, what positive experiences with teachers have influenced your view of the profession? And finally, do you believe this is a profession that your generation is considering? When we launch our campaign, we really want to ensure that we're reaching our students. And so we need insight on what your thoughts are and how can we reach this new generation for a great profession. So you can take, so let us know what question you're answering, but you can start anywhere and unmute yourselves and share with us. I'm trying to see my screen. I see a hand raised, so unmute yourself.
So I would go ahead and say, I'm answering the question about whether or not my generation would actually choose the teaching profession.
Yes.
Like you all had like said, a lot of times there's a negative stigma around teaching. And I say that because I also want to go into education. So I'm fully aware of the stigmas that float around and the perception that it has. So I would say honestly too, the flexibility of it all, because a lot of students view teaching as, okay, well, I only have these breaks and I only get paid this much, but also pushing the fact that it presents a flexibility like no other, given that you are on the same schedule, say, if you had a family. You also have the opportunity to explore other like side gigs and other hustles, because you do have the freedom to do that with a flexible schedule that education provides too. So I think too, that's one thing to kind of hit on when you're approaching students about that, because a lot of them are kind of teetering the line between two different things they want to do. So I think the flexibility option is something that a lot of students will look into.
Thank you for that. I do think that is attractive to young people. I think more than our generation, they are feeling that they want to have that flexibility in their work schedule and in their life. So Thank you. I see another person with their hand raised. Unmute yourself. I'm sorry, I'm not able to see names, but
Hi, yes, this is Allie. Talking about like teachers in general, like at my school, I'm at a deaf residential school, and really the best part about that was the communication access. And we didn't have to have interpreters because we all signed at the school, and so communication was just very accessible with everybody signing, and you could pay attention to the teachers more. You didn't have to look at the interpreters because the teachers were signing, so it was like that direct communication. And also, the flexibility with the schedules and homework. And let me think 1 second. Yeah, I guess that's all I had to say.
thank you for sharing. Yes.
I'll share out of the chat. Seth says, I think there's a sentiment that you can't support a family on a teacher's salary. After paying so much money for a degree, it's difficult to fulfill this career. To be honest, I don't think my generation has a lot of hope in the school system for employment or learning. And so I think that is really an important one to look at, the realities versus the myths. Can you support a family? Everything is expensive today, and I understand that's really a good point to bring up. Graham says, I believe a great teacher is one that's able to connect with their students and see them as unique individuals rather than scores and grades. When a teacher is able to get to know their students and their style of learning, they're able to creatively approach challenges with them and support them through their learning. And Abby says, I think that the teaching profession in general is one that focuses heavily on moral values, which I highly appreciate in my teachers. I feel that some of the best teachers I have had have been open about the nuanced issues of teaching, but also appreciate how the profession builds bonds and can be mentally fulfilling. That's a really good point. I think my generation considers teaching as a profession less than past generations, but with programs like Educators Rising and such, there's becoming a new definition and hope for what education means. Seth says, good teachers are accommodating. As someone with a learning disability, it's crucial that a teacher is willing to help me and encourage me when needed. The best teachers have looked for opportunities beyond the classroom for me, sought out interactive lessons, and really thought about the well-being of all students. When I'm struggling, I should be able to talk to the teacher about it to a certain extent. So those are some great points. I really, those are great.
Absolutely. And so we appreciate your honest feedback and really helping us to begin to think about how we can reach more students. We want to create a whole generation of effective and quality teachers, and it starts with having these conversations with amazing students like yourself. And so we will continue to have these conversations with students as we travel across the Commonwealth. And we want to invite all into the teaching profession. Again, as I said, as I've heard some say over the course of week, that teachers are great influencers. They are the master influencers, and you get to change lives and really influence how students will progress in their future. And so I'm going to stick with it, and we hope to invite others in. Thank you guys for participating.
I think we still have some more questions. Yeah, we had some questions about how we can communicate this message. You guys are very digitally savvy and very advanced. So we want to know if we're creating a public relations campaign to talk about teaching in a positive way, how can we do it? So those are some questions we have for you. What messages about teaching would resonate with your generation? What type of social media content about the teaching profession would catch your attention? And who would be influential messengers to promote teaching to your generation? So we want to hear, help us design this campaign so that it's successful. So kind of think about those for a second and then start sharing with us how we can make this campaign really strong. There's Peter has his hand up, I think.
Yeah, I think that one of the big ways that people that we get our news and our information is from social media and from short form video. And that may seem like kind of a hard format to really get an impactful message through, but even advertising in the short form video format that goes on to things like Instagram or YouTube or TikTok is going to reach so many more people than, say, a traditional billboard ad. That's one of the things that I think it could be really impactful for you all.
Thank you. That is great. Yeah, I struggle with thinking, someone drives down the road and sees a billboard that says be a teacher, and then suddenly the idea occurs to them that they should be a teacher. I think it's probably already been there. So we need to come out with some more subtle ways to encourage and to break down barriers. You guys have any more suggestions about how we could communicate this, who we could use to communicate it? What do you want to hear?
I know there are some schools that have like teacher associations. I know one of my friends, she wants to be a teacher and she's like a part of like those organizations. So I think it could be good to even just use other students who are passionate about education, whether they want to go into the profession or they have just been really highly impacted by other teachers. I think letting their voices shine could really get to like other young people. And really, in order to like destigmatize the profession on social media, you can do like a little slides of 10 myths about education that are just, education as a profession that are not true. And you could even go into these like payment variations within different regions so that people are like, oh, well, if I decide to go in state, maybe I can look at like Fayette County so that I can, get a good salary, but also fulfill my passion for helping other students.
So in the comments, I think Seth says, I would say specifically use Instagram as a platform because YouTube ads and TV ads don't gather a lot of attention from your generation. That's a good point. Having especially young teachers talking about their experiences would be a great way to go about it. I think you're right. We do have some videos that we have it on a YouTube channel, but again, getting them in the right places is what we want to do. Isabella says, I think our generation is influenced most by money. In the ads, I would highlight those numbers about starting salary and such, and highlight the more non-traditional ways into the profession without an expensive degree. Yes, there are 9 different pathways in addition to a regular college, the traditional route. So we definitely want to highlight that. Sharing the positive stats, particularly about teacher mental health, is important too. Yes, thank you. I think that's definitely a great point.
Yeah, those positive facts. A lot of people, like I said, have those other ideas, and there are some really positive facts about teaching and how teachers are feeling. So, and we're working on those starting salaries. We're advocating for those. So,
and we're finding, and I wonder if this would maybe be of interest as well. In some districts don't have the starting salary necessarily as high as others, but they have some benefits that are interesting, like childcare they have like an on-site childcare for all of their teachers. For me, when I was a young teacher, that would have been, my school did have on-site childcare, and that did make a difference, and it was affordable. So maybe talking about some of the benefits. They also, like that district also does gym memberships for their whole district. You can have, there's lots of different things with those, with knowing some of the perks of teaching. I don't know if that would help folks make, because I do think, as a teacher, I always thought it was funny. My sister was in pharmaceutical sales, and she would always bring the doctors these lavish lunches, and they would go on trips. And I would be like, yeah, we got donuts this morning in the teacher's lounge, and we went crazy about it. So, just talking about some of the perks of being a teacher that maybe we don't think about.
All right, any other comments before we let you move on with your day? All right, well, our final slide is, this is how you can contact us and follow us on Go Teach KY and get involved in spreading some of the positive facts. You've heard some today, and so we ask you to be our good messengers and send out that positivity around teaching. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Up next is announcements and member sharing. So CSAC Chair Peter Jefferson and CSAC Vice Chair Daniel Ratley, you guys can take things over.
Peter, do you want to go first? Do you have anything?
Sure, give me just 1 second to pull up. I was going to talk about the things on the screen now, the Youth Tobacco Control and Youth Empowerment event. You all should have received an email about this event. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You should have received an email about this event. And we are looking for some representatives from the Student Advisory Council to attend this event. It's in Frankfurt. There are travel scholarships available, but there is a deadline to request those. There is additional information in your email about this, but this is a good way to take your student.
I think Peter, I think your connection is a little rough here.
Your advisory capacity from this group, someone else, and something that we put a lot of conversation about tobacco control. And this, hate this.
Peter, can you reconnect to the meeting real quick? Daniel, I don't know if you're able to kind of pick up pick up where he was trying to talk about with this event.
Yeah, I've been having some connectivity issues too. I've had to reconnect like 5 times, but
I noticed. It's all good. I think we can. We got you now. So we should be all right.
Yeah. Like you said, the travel scholarships are available, but that is due for December 20th. And we just need maybe hopefully 2 or 3 people joining this event. I may go. I just gotta submit that in 10 days. I gotta figure out everything with my parents. We could go to the next slide and see what else we have on here. Oh yeah, just the next meeting date. So our next meeting date is going to be another virtual one from 9 to 11 Eastern, and it is February 25th. So we will hopefully see all y'all there. And I don't know if Peter's going to come back on, but maybe.
I was about to say, Peter wants to try, and if Peter wants to try and come back on, we can. But the last thing was adjournment for the council. So. Yeah. So really just need a motion for adjournment and a second, and we'll be good to go.
I'll motion for adjournment.
Second.
That second that.
I'm not sure.
And then chime back in, let me know.
Yeah, it was me. Wow.
What's your name? Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.